Good afternoon, everyone. Gabe Velazquez here with you, transparenttrading-solutions.com for a Friday, 18th August. Let's get right to it. So ironically, or not ironically, but, I'm having a class next Tuesday using the VIX. And it's really interesting. If you were plotting the VIX today, the VIX hit a level, turned down, and the market rallied. So, if you still want to be interested in something along those lines, go ahead and register for the class. It's a free class. I'll go through the process, what I go through, and give you what I do for the setups using the VIX. In fact, today it was actually worked pretty good again. Just over the last, I'll go through some historical data too, because it's also been very, very important on some of the major turns in the market, and how you can use that for more or less for kind of more intermediate and swing trading, and long term for your investments, SPY, and that type of thing. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, you can register either on the website or hit the link below. And I've been tweeting about it. So follow me on Twitter as well. The link's below there as well. So there's all kinds of ways to get involved with that. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get into the charts. Not waste any time here. Let's get into the charts. We had a little bit of panicky, again, with the VIX jumping up to levels we haven't seen. So everybody should see that. Yeah. So when I was with you on Tuesday, we were in fact just sitting right along here. We had another pullback down to that support area right there. You can see the 1, 2, 3. We try to bounce off of that. And then yesterday, we sold off again as yields continue to go higher. And now we're bouncing off of that guy right there, which is right at the gap. So there's a little gap, top of the gap came right there. And again, not a big bounce so far, but, and it blew through that level right there. So again, one of the things I always talk about is shorting too far down. That level looked good and it kind of blew right through. So I think if you're going to short, you're probably going to come up a little bit higher. If in fact you're going to short, keep in mind that longer term, we're still along this right here, and we are trying to hold this final area that I've been talking about. This is that final pivot low. So we did close above that. Whether we come all the way back down here is going to be interesting, or even further down. But I did get a little sense that little panicky yesterday and overnight. So maybe, obviously we don't know until after the fact. Maybe this correction has run its course. And I mean, think about this. We've already come down about 5% from the peak, which is generally a garden variety correction. So again, we'll see how that goes to next week. We got Jackson Hole. Remember, Jackson Hole was that right there last August when with the Powell talking about there's going to be pain, the pain speech or whatever they call it, right? So I don't think that's going to be a redux of that. It's not going to be a repeat of that, but it's interesting. So that's where the S&P is. Again, you've got some levels below, some levels up top. I'm using some other things as a proxy for this, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. Okay. All right. So that's the S&P. Let's look at now the NASDAQ. So we did try a NASDAQ trade last night, right along here, similar to the S&P, and very, very small position in a micro. And we got nicked on that for a very tiny loss. But this has obviously been the one that has been under the most pressure, and came in to inside this gap and then also rallied. A lot of these AI stocks are going to, we got NVIDIA tomorrow, next week. which is going to be interesting. And Apple came down to a critical support area. In fact, if you're looking for a proxy for the NASDAQ, Apple did bounce off of this level here, 173, 170. That's the level I've been talking to my members about in terms of how far Apple could go. And we did catch a bounce off that. You can see, again, whether this is the end of the Apple correction or you know, we keep falling, that's obviously also remains to be seen. But at least now, you know, I've had this level right here drawn out. So we got a little bit of a bounce. Now we got to get above 180 and see if they can want to fill this gap on Apple. Okay, so that's on the NASDAQ. The Dow also hit, but not as severely as all the rest of this of the indexes. We have some levels below here that I'm looking at, and then you know, so this one's holding up much better. Similarly, the Russell, you know, Russell's got some levels down in here, and but kind of in no man's land. So I'm not really want to see the Russell come down a lot further. All the action, by the way, main driver been the bond market, as we know. Okay, so TLT, the 30-year, all the you know, the normalization of the yield curves happening, where you're getting the long end of the bond market, rising rates, much heavier selling on the long end than on the short end. We are still above these lows from October of last year on the 30-year. That's going to be important. If we can hold on to these, then I think the market also will do better. But if we break down through those levels back here, then I think, you know, that's going to be not good for the stock market. I think we'll probably going to keep going lower. So it is going to be very critical. You know, yields did pop up to 430 right here, and then it came off. And, you know, that's also the lows, the highs, I'm sorry, the high price right there from last October, which was a prior peak in yields. And you know, it wouldn't shock me if we actually surpass that by a little bit and then come down. So, but that's going to be the key driver of stocks. That's really what's been driving stocks lately. So again, it's worth watching. Just like the VIX, you know, all these puzzle pieces, you can't just, you know, trade levels. There's all kinds of other stuff that will give you an odds enhancer and give you an edge. If you don't follow rates, if you don't follow the dollar, if you don't understand the VIX, all that stuff. So you get the idea here. Now, notice on the short end of the yield curve, those are basically not doing a whole lot, and we'll see how that goes. And then the dollar did come up off that level right there. It did rally a little bit, and wasn't able to hold above that. So basically it came right up into here. You know, I've had this level marked off and came off, and you know, I do believe maybe we're peaking in the dollar and yields next week. If that's the case, then I think the market's back off to the races. But that really is going to be the main driver right now. So if rates come off and start coming back down, and the market calms down, the bond market calms down, I think we have the dollar pulled back all the way, possibly all the way to 101.70, which will in turn, you know, give you some nice opportunities on the currency front as well. You know, yen is starting to pick up a little bit. We've been talking about that as well. Not, you know, again, not obviously because the dollar's pretty much been chopping around, and a lot of these currencies are just a mess. I mean, look at the British pound and even the Swissy. Look at these things. I mean, it's just been even these things, even they've been kind of grinding lower, but you know, just kind of in a very choppy manner. So not a lot in the currencies. Very challenged, the currencies right now in terms of any kind of trading, unless you're willing to sit through a lot of this chop and hang on to a short, like for instance on Canada. But you know, you're having to withstand these 100-point pullbacks to stay with that, which you know, most people can't do that. So it's interesting. Also, the metals similarly. So all these markets are just, gold has been just a very steady, just meandering lower. We're coming into some really key levels at 1900. We'll see if that holds. And then oil, similarly, big, peaked here. And again, just been, we've got some nice support at 79 on oil right here. And looks like it even held today. So it's now maybe it's kind of come into a range here back 85 to 79. Maybe that's what it's trying to do now. And then that gas market also just kind of chopping around, big swings last couple of weeks, and now all of a sudden again back to the kind of soup here. Got some support around 250. But all in all, again, just very choppy. And then on the grain markets, just pretty much now starting to really perk up again, but again, in a very kind of, you can see how soybeans have been chopping up higher. We got a gap to fill up here, 1380. That's going to be interesting to see if that pans out. And what else? Wheat did hold pretty nicely at that $6 mark. It's trying to gain. This actually looks like a really nice move for a pullback area. And then, up top here, there's some levels up here. So that's starting to perk up. Again, wheat came down, took that level up by a little bit, and took off. Not by a lot. And in fact, I mean, this is about a 20-point move on wheat, which is actually not a big deal. But it is, you can see, coming off where it needed to. It held right where it needed to, right here, this level that I've had drawn out, and it's starting to move. So we'll see if there's any follow through on this next week. And corn is kind of dead. So all in all, again, the averages did get a little bout of selling, but has been a bit frustrating for a lot of folks is that every sell-off, even today, lacked any type of, lacked any kind of follow through. Now we'll see if this again just kind of bases out and then continues lower, or we in fact could get one of these numbers where we rally or all the way back up here before we start heading back down again. So don't chase the, I was kind of cautioning everybody this morning in my members not to get, not to chase this thing down. If you came in this morning and you said, oh yeah, this market's going to crash and this and that, whatever, and you buy, you shorted it in the morning, all it did is just run right back in your face all day. So you got to be very, very careful with that. Okay. All right. So that's going to do it for me, kind of a short, sweet, because there's, again, not a lot to talk about. Even this, unless you were short somewhere up here, everybody says, well, now it's shorting should be making you a lot of money. It can, but the question is, where did you get in? Did you sell the break here? Did you sell, up here? Or are you selling, if you sold that break here, you probably did okay if you got down in here, but if you sold the break this morning, it ran right up against you. So you got to be careful with that notion here. I would rather sell rallies up into, these areas up here. If you're going to continue, if you're going to take a bearish stance, sell the rallies up to here, and then use the VIX, which I'm going to go through to kind of guide you as well. Okay. So again, if you want to register for that class, it is this coming Tuesday. I'm filling up. So go ahead and register below, and anything else, contact me at the links below at support@Transparent Trading Solution. Okay. All right, everybody, have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you on Tuesday. Take care.